Hey guys, what is up? Mikey Wizard here. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to master your own tracks for beginners. Alright guys, so today we're going to be learning how to master our own tracks, and this is going to be in a simplified way, really just getting your track as loud as it can be without distorting it, and maybe some corrective EQ. If you're not sure about how to use an EQ, go check out my video about Audio Engineering 101. I'll put a link in the description and it'll kind of elaborate. That way you kind of have a foundation to run off of here. But by no means necessary am I a mastering engineer or a professional. This is just the way that I recommend it for people who are just starting out, who are beginners, who might be kind of lost within this, what does mastering mean, and all this stuff. But right now, the main focus is getting your track as loud as it can, and also maybe correcting it with some EQ if needed. So let's jump right into this thing, guys. So here's my beat right here, and I'll play this right now so you guys get a feel for what we're working with. It's unmastered right now. If you look at the waveform here, it's not crazy, you know, loud. If it was crazy loud, it'd probably look something like this. But right now it's not. I'm just gonna bring that back down, and yeah, if you notice the meters here, I'm gonna go ahead and play the beat. Pay attention to these meters here. So right now the beat that's basically the beat, but right now it's peaking out at around -7 dB. So I have a lot of headroom right now. I'm not slamming it to 0 and then mastering it afterwards. Whenever you start mastering, you want it to be kind of on the quieter side. You don't want it to be super loud just yet. And mastering is really going to bring your track up to its full volume without letting it clip above this 0, because if you don't know about this, any signal goes above this line right here, this 0, when the audio is exported, everything above that line is just completely cut off from the actual file, which is no good, because you know we don't want to spend all this time producing and then mixing and mastering just for some of our elements to be cut off in that way. That's not good right there. So I'm gonna be showing you guys how to use a limiter on your master track to make it as loud as you can make it without distorting it and without having it clip above the 0 line right here. So I got 3 different plugins. These are all limiters, and these are all, I have all 3 of them on the master channel, but right now I have all of them off. If I click this little button here, it will activate it, and I can open them up, and we can really take a look inside of them. Now, before I go any further, if you're using FL Studio, Cubase, Logic, Reason, Pro Tools, Studio One, everything I'm about to explain will still apply to this. It's just going to look a little bit different because every DAW looks different, and it's still going to apply to it. Don't worry. Don't freak out on me. I have 3 different plugins here: the Izotope Ozone Maximizer, the Fab Filter Pro-L, and I also have a plugin called Loud Max. Now, the Izotope and the Fab Filter plugins, these 2 right here, these do cost money, and I can link these in the description. But I also got a free plugin just in case you guys were kind of low on your budget, which is called Loud Max right here. It's the little one here. It doesn't look as fancy, but don't be fooled. If you know how to use it, you can really make a lot of good decisions with this thing, and you can really add a bonus to the loudness of your track with this plugin here. So I'm also going to have this in the description. So if you're tight on budget and you don't want to spend any money on a limiter, then I'm going to go ahead and include this in the description so you guys can download it for free. If you guys need help downloading it, reach out to me, put it in the comments. I'd love to help you guys get this on your hands. That way you have at least something to start with. Anyways, let's continue with this. Whenever you're mastering, as far as loudness goes, you want to always be playing it at the loudest part of your track. So right here, this is the loudest part. This is when the bass and drums come in of the instrumental. And let's go ahead and start with the free plugin. Okay, let's turn it on right here. Cool. Now, what's interesting here is we got two knobs on this one, and we have the threshold knob, and then we also have the output knob right here, or the slider, I should say. They're not knobs, they're sliders. We have two sliders. So the threshold is deciding how much of the signal is being maximized to its loudness, and how loud do we want it to reach at the maximum point. Now, what you want to do is get this output, before you do anything, get this output and bring it down to about -1 dB. And you're going, what? Why am I bringing it down? Shouldn't I want to move it up? How come I can't make it louder? Well, actually, this is going to prevent it from going above that 0 line that we were talking about earlier. And you do not want anything to go past that. So having it stop completely at -1 dB is exactly where we want it. Others might argue to have it at around -6 dB, or maybe just 0.3 dB, -0.3 dB, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to do -1. Now, so far, if we play the beat, nothing has changed. Okay, nothing has changed so far. You're thinking, Mike, you're not really helping me yet. Let's get into the fun part, guys. Next, we're going to move this threshold slider. And this is going to decide how much of the signal is going to be processed through this plugin. And you don't want to overdo it. That's the #1 biggest mistake that I see people make when mixing and mastering is they really overdo it, and they do too much with whatever plugins or effects they're using. This, you want to go light on it. You want to make sure that the track gets loud, but you don't want to distort it at all. Once you start hearing distortion and crunchiness, and I'll show you guys an example of that, you kind of want to back off of it a little bit. So the more I move it to the left here, the more that this goes down negatively, the more that it's going to be making your track louder. And this bar right here is going to represent the gain reduction, also known as attenuation of the track. And if you're new to this, you're probably going, Mike, what the hell does attenuation even mean? I don't know what all these fancy words mean. It's basically showing you how much it's compressing it. It's how much it's squashing the sound so it doesn't get past the -0 or the -1 without while still making it loud. So you don't really want to go past 6 decibels of gain reduction. You want to try to stay anything above that. I mean, there's people who argue otherwise, but the more you go past that value, the more it'll sound squashed and distorted, and the dynamics kind of get killed from it. And you'll see what I mean right now. So let's shut up and stop talking and just show you guys a demonstration of this threshold right here. Wow, I mean, what a difference, guys. That just made it so much louder. Let's hear it before and after, and watch your earphones here. I hope I'm not blowing your guys' headphones out right now, but let's hear a before and after with this.
Mikey, do your magic.
Wow, it just brought everything up and nice and loud, which is awesome. Now, that's about where I would have it. If you notice the 6 dB gain reduction I was talking about right here, you saw it kind of squash it down to around there. I didn't really try to go past that. Now I'm going to show you guys an extreme example of overdoing it and doing it the wrong way. So this is how you do it the wrong way. Is it louder? Definitely. Is it better? No. I would argue no. That's what you want to avoid. You kind of heard that crunching sound, like the beat was kind of suffocating. You don't want to do that, guys. You really want to avoid that at all costs. Let's bring both of these down to -1, and let's say you hit this link button. Now it's gonna link these two notches here, these two sliders together. So when I move one, they should. Oh, whoops. Let's bring this back. Let's bring both of these to 0. Now, an interesting trick, when you hit this link button here, it's kind of hard to tell when the beat gets so loud to tell if you're getting distortion or not, because it's just blaring music through your headphones so loud, or maybe your speaker's so loud that you can't really tell the detail as much as you want it to. So a good trick to do is hit this link button right here and grab the top threshold slider, and if you notice when I move it, the output slider also moves down too. So what it's going to be compensating for is, as it gets louder, it also brings down the output, so you can really hear if it's getting distorted or not. And then if it's not getting distorted, if it's where you're pushing it the most, where it's not getting distorted, then bring the output back up. And I'm going to show you guys an example. So let's do it again. Let's bring this slider back. Now notice the track isn't getting louder because the output is moving down with the threshold. Now it's getting a little bit squashed, just a little bit, and let's hear it where it gets really squashed. And now you can hear it get really squashed. So let's bring this up to around the 6 dB of gain reduction. And now let's bring back the output. Let's unlink them and bring the output back up to -1. And there you go. Now the track is nice and loud. And this is the same concept with each plugin here. So let's go to the next plugin, and we'll just do it really quick. I won't go as in depth. Let's do it with this plugin now. Let's bring the ceiling down to about -1, and we'll just play it. And then we can do it again with the Pro-L here. There you go. That's how to maximize your track to the loudest point that you can get it to. Let's move on to corrective EQ. I'm not going to go too in depth with this, but it is worth mentioning definitely by far. So let's show you guys this right here. Now, corrective EQ on the master track needs to be very small, very, very subtle. You do not want to do anything. You never want to do overdo anything on anything that's on the master track. So, for example, in this, I feel like the bass might be just a little bit too overpowering on here. And there's different ways I can go about controlling that. I can just go back to the original mix and maybe bring the bass down, compress it a little bit more. But if you don't have access to that, if you don't have access to the whole mix and all the stems, and you only have the file like I do here, then there's a couple of different ways. You can use a thing called a multi-band compressor, or you can use a equalizer. So I think the multiband compressor might be a little bit too advanced for this video, so I'll save that for another time. But right now, let me show you guys how I can kind of use the EQ to manipulate the bass. And this is going to be the same process as using any EQ that you have, whether it's your stock EQ plugin or maybe you have a different EQ that looks different from this one. It's all the same here. So let's go ahead and play that. Okay, and also I kind of feel like I could brighten up the top end just a little bit, so I'm gonna go probably around 5K, 5,500 hertz, and then bring that up about a dB, and let's see how that brings out the hi-hats. Alright, I like that. Now let's do a before and after of the whole EQ. Now it's very subtle, and if you're not listening on any nice headphones or some nice speakers, if you're listening on a phone speaker or a laptop speaker, it's probably going to be really hard to notice these differences. But let's do a before and after test. I love that. I mean, notice when it's off, the bass is just a little bit too powerful, but when it's on, whoops, when it's on, the bass is a little more tight, a little more controlled, a little more punchy. I like it a lot more in this way. And one thing to remember, that anything you do on the master track is affecting every single instrument and element and melody that you have on your beat or song. It's going to affect everything. So if I'm cutting out the lows here like I am, that's going to cut out the lows on the piano, on the flute, on if I had a vocal on here, it'd cut off the low end on the vocal a little bit. And so is this high shelf right here. It's going to be boosting up every single element. So be very careful and be very mindful of what you do, and keep in mind everything you should be doing should have an intention behind it. Not every single track is going to need an EQ on it when you're mastering it. If the mix is just so killer that you don't need an EQ on it, then don't put an EQ on it. I really don't want people throwing the EQ on there because they said, you know, I saw Mike throw the EQ on there and he just got rid of the low end like that and then boosted it on here, so I'm just going to copy him. Every single song is going to have a specific need to be done to it. So use your ears and really just go with your gut on what do you feel the mix needs. If it doesn't need anything, don't do anything to it. If it needs a little push or a little subtraction here and there, then go for it. Mess around with it and just make sure it's subtle, and just keep in mind that the little subtleties all add up together to be a nice, great final mastered song. So we have the EQ on here. Next, I'm gonna put the limiter back on there. I'm gonna use the L2. I'm a fan of this limiter here. So let's grab this, and I'm gonna do the same trick we did earlier. I'm gonna bring this down at about 1 dB, negative 1 dB, and I'm gonna maximize it one more time for you guys, just so you can kind of get the hang of what it looks like and what the process is like. So let's do this. Beautiful. Okay, guys, this is all I have for you for now. This is very simple. I know if you're an intermediate producer or engineer, I know you're laughing at me right now, but I really want to just keep this one nice and simple, nice and clean, to the point, nothing too complicated. If you guys want me to go more in depth, I would love to go more in depth about phasing and stereo imaging and multi-band compression and all that fun stuff within the mastering process. But for now, I just want to keep it simple, keep it for beginners. If you had no idea how to master a song, now you kind of have a better idea of how to go about it. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel if this helped you. That way you can stay up to date every time I post a new piece of content for you to eat up and really just learn something about the whole music production stuff. So please don't forget to subscribe, and if you hit that little bell, it'll give you a notification every time I put a useful video up like this. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me at Mikey Wizard on all social media platforms. That's MikeYWizard. Mikey Wizard on Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. Please reach out to me with any questions. If you guys want me to cover anything specific in the future videos, please drop them down in the comments. Send me a message. I would love to cover it. Had a lot of people requesting me about this video. That's the reason why I did it. So I really just want to give you guys as much value as I can and help you guys learn as much as you can, because I know how it feels when you're first starting out. You're alone and it's confusing, and when you go on the internet, everyone's using these big fancy words that you have no idea what they're talking about. So I totally understand it, guys. I want to be here to help you guys out. So please leave some feedback, leave some comments about what you want to see, and keep following your passion, keep following your dreams. Keep up the hustle, guys. Stay positive. Have an awesome day. Cheers.